During the Disney earnings call, Bob Iger made some rather stunning admissions, and one of them really caught me off guard. It sounded something like we heard back on the Ubisoft earnings call a few weeks ago, and that was that Bob Iger is taking it upon himself to, quote, restore creativity to the company. Does that line sound familiar? It should. But then you have to ask yourself why Bob Iger is finally admitting that creativity is dead. But I think one of the things that he's missing is going into the reason why. And I think I know why he won't, because admitting that DEI has failed many companies like Disney wouldn't be a good look for Bob. Online. Commentary from CEO and the CFO, that'd be Bob Iger, and of course Hugh Johnston, the CFO. And as I predicted, the first thing in the report is touting the wonderful performance of Deadpool and Wolverine, along with Inside Out 2, exactly as we predicted. This is what Disney was going to have its dance on for this earnings call, because as they guided forward, theme park attendance was going to have moderated demand. Sure enough, it did. But they talk about the profitability of DTC, Deadpool and Wolverine, on and on and on. And then we get down to this. Our renewed creative strength is a result of the extensive work we began 2 years ago to restore creativity to the center of the company. If that line sounds familiar, you heard me use it just a few weeks ago when I was reading almost verbatim the exact same statement by Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot. Restoring creativity to the company, basically admitting to shareholders out there that they had broken it, that it had been lost. We'll see if that restoration holds. We remain just as excited about 2025 with a collection of highly anticipated titles, says Bob Iger, including Captain America: Brave New World, Lilo and Stitch: The Fantastic Four: First Steps, Zootopia 2, and Avatar: Fire and Ash. I will note that once again, I believe, in Bob Iger's list of major 2025 Disney projects, Rachel Ziegler's Snow White is once again conspicuously absent. Read into that what you will. Disney's FX received 36 Emmy Awards, the most in history, including 19 awards for Shogun, this year's most awarded series, and 11 for The Bear. Once again, not Disney creativity. You can thank the boys and girls that Bob Iger spent $70 billion on to get Fox.
I'm especially grateful to my leadership team and everyone at Disney who has played a role in setting us on this path for a new era of growth. On the creative front, our renewed strength is a result of the extensive work we began 2 years ago to restore creativity to the center of the company. In television, our branded series and general entertainment programming are performing exceptionally well, drawing new audiences and winning an unprecedented number of accolades, including a record-breaking 60 Emmy Awards.
You know, in 2007, late 2017, when we announced initially that we were acquiring assets from 20th Century Fox, we specifically mentioned that we were doing so through the lens of streaming. We saw a world where streaming was going to proliferate, and we knew we needed not only more content, but more distribution. And with that came just a tremendous amount of content. We've talked about it when you talk about 60 Emmys, so much of that came from that acquisition. Or when we talk about Avatar, for instance, that came from that acquisition. I could go on and on. In addition to that, people forget, that came with control of Hulu and ultimately ownership of Hulu. That distribution, packaged well, integrated well with Disney Plus, has enabled us to achieve the numbers we've achieved, which is approximately 174 million global subscribers, and an ability to really
that was worth
see into
$70
the future
billion?
of streaming through a very optimistic lens. So in a way, we've already consolidated. And
he just admitted Disney didn't make any of the stuff that's successful right now.
In the past, we certainly aren't.
That's what I said in the
don't shy
monologue.
away from those. We, in many respects, have already consolidated. We don't really need more assets right now, either from a distribution or from a content perspective.
Agreed.
To thrive in basically a disrupted media world.
And that was the question posed here to Hugh Johnston at Disney. And Mike's right. They just don't have anything in the till that can either A, be unwound from Disney like Star Wars because it's so integrated into theme parks and everything else, and it isn't worth a pile of crap anymore because Disney broke it so badly.
Okay.
And
I've got one to throw in here. That was right after Bob Iger said that that Disney content wasn't the content that was getting them the wins. All of that money that they spent on Fox, he was justifying the purchase of Fox. But of course, in revealing any kind of truth, he reveals the lie that they've already told.
Right.
So right after they said frictional cost of selling assets, he pointed out that it was Fox content that was getting all of these wins, so not Disney.
Right. In my monologue before we began, real quick, I mentioned that. That was one of my highlighted remarks. He bragged about how well Disney did with the Emmys. Disney's FX received 36 awards, including 19 for Shogun and 11 for The Bear. And I was like, he's bragging on all the stuff he paid $70 billion to get from Fox. None of the stuff that's actually Disney core is doing a damn thing. Mike?
So my second comment was going to go about was actually right along those lines. So that's a great bridge because I wanted to note that on this financial call, for all of none of the IP stuff discussed. So for all the time we as YouTubers and me as YouTuber adjacent talk about Marvel and Star Wars and blah 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 blah, wasn't even mentioned. Even none of these IPs. There's such a blip on the radar screen when it comes to what this company thinks is really important. If this company thought any of these IPs that we so much care about were important, were valuable, or were going to be invested in, then they would have talked about it. They didn't.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.